Marisa, welcome to the pod. Or you've never had an interview for a job that you've had?
No, that's right, yeah. So I did finish my degree. I failed a module.
What was the module?
Funnily enough, the module that I failed was actually marketing.
Because the one module you failed, you decided to start a business directly related to that module. Why?
So, I did try a couple of businesses before the agency, and then it just kind of come crashing down. I mean, looking back, I probably did give up too easily. We had a group call, and they just said, we're shutting the agency down, it's not working. I wasn't expecting it at all. 2 days after that, that's when I was leaving for my holiday to Australia.
Starting a business with the subject you failed at university, you
Say it louder for the people in the back.
Yeah. Then you're taking the second step, which is the agency says this isn't working. Right. So you go and start an agency in the same place.
Yeah, I mean, I've never thought it in the way that you've just said, not at all.
And did people sign those?
Yeah.
Wow. What was that time frame exactly?
Well, I lost my job on the 13th.
Yeah.
I flew to Australia on the 15th, and then I gave my decision on the 17th.
Where do you see the marketing industry going?
I think the AI thing is the next anxiety. What do you think?
Your 18-year-old self, what advice would you give to that person?
There's obviously having a couple of businesses that didn't work out. Failure isn't fatal.
What's your biggest fear?
Wow.
Marisa, welcome to the pod.
Thank you so much for having me on.
A pleasure. Thank you so much for coming. How are you feeling for it?
I'm nervous. It's the first time I've ever done anything like this. A year ago, less than a year ago, I launched my business online, and I did a big shoot with my sisters, and I did a talking video with mini mics, and I hated that.
Oh, really?
I was shaking by the end of it. So yeah, this is all new to me, but very exciting as well.
It's just a conversation, and I think it's important. Anyone that's watching this, my hope is that they're going to get value out of this conversation. And so just as a brief introduction to people that don't know who you are, what do you think they're going to benefit from listening to your story?
I think my story is quite unique in terms of how I got to where I am today and the decisions I made, not necessarily the safe ones. And I hope that I can maybe inspire others to step out of that 9 to 5 if they want to. And even if, you're young or a woman in business and you're scared to walk into those rooms, hopefully my story will help inspire and shape someone else as well.
Absolutely. Because one of the things I've noticed is in business, we talk about using other people's money, other people's time. There's a new one that I've come up with, which is other people's stories. Because when you hear someone's story, then I can relate to this person. Like you said, as a young woman in business, that's listening to this, they're going to see what you've done, and it's just going to inspire them because your story is inspiring. And just before we started, you said something. You said you've never had an interview for a job, or you've never had an interview for a job that you've had.
That's right. Yeah.
So
absolutely.
how have you survived in this world when we taught that you need to do well in interviews, have a great CV? How have you done it?
It's crazy that I've never actually had an interview, but I've interviewed people.
Oh, really?
Well, yeah, because over the past year I've needed a bit of help. But I don't know, honestly. Like I think I only realised that probably about a year ago because towards the end of the agency that I used to work for, I guess I'll talk about that later. But I guess I wasn't happy at some point, so I started to build my own CV and my portfolio and apply for jobs. And it dawned on me that I've never actually had a proper interview. So I think that's just because anything that I've done from a young age, it's been, first it was hospitality. So when I was 17, 18, 19, so of course you have an interview if you work in a bar and stuff, but it's not proper, formal interview. And then everything from that, it just was from working my way up, from friends giving me jobs or people that I knew giving me jobs, and through merit and working my way up. So I never actually went into a brand new room with brand new people with a big CEO or director and actually had to have a face-to-face interview.
Wow.
Where I would be asked, what would you think you'd bring to the company? Nothing like that.
No. And I think that's probably something that's undervalued in our generation, which is the power of relationship and the power of being able to connect with other people, look them in the eye, be able to understand relational capital is just as important as financial capital, because so often people are so focused on what can they get from this job, how can they use people to get where they want, But I think something with your story, which I'm intrigued to dig into, is how the role of relationships has played in getting you to where you are. Would you say it was one of the primary things that got you to where you are today, or have you only learned that more recently as you've gone out on your own, starting your own business?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think the relationship side of things for me was definitely a big turning point, because I've built the relationships and the connections with the owners and the directors that give me the chance to open the agency. But I am quite a big, I do have, what's the word I'm looking for? Imposter syndrome.
Oh,
so I struggle with imposter syndrome a lot. So where I'm saying,
really, I've never struggled with that ever.
So yeah, I think that a lot that I got given this opportunity, and it was through the relationships I built. But actually, I think it's probably because when I did work in my 9-to-5 agency, I was kind of like the loudest in the room, and I have worked hard to get to where I am. So people probably not only see me, as a friend or as someone that they trust in business, but also hopefully see me as, she can do this. So we'll trust her with it,
Absolutely. That imposter syndrome is such a big thing, because the more and more I realize that even those that don't identify with it, I still think struggle with it, because when you walk into a room or even starting a business, you're sitting there trying to think of the name, thinking, am I crazy to be doing this? When everyone else might be telling you, go and get a job, go and do this. And you're sitting there like, who am I to do this? So I wonder if we could kind of go back a bit and take you back into your story, your childhood, your origins, and say, who are you? Who is it? Obviously, you got a marketing agency for those that don't know, today. But take me back to growing up. Where did you grow up? What was your family life like?
Okay, so, well, I guess I moved out when I was 17, 18 when I went to uni. Before that, I was always kind of a home bird in Coventry. I knew that travel was my passion, and I knew that I always wanted to either live abroad or travel for a long amount of time. Australia was always on the cards for me.
Did you ever go?
I went last year, which was actually 2 days after I got made redundant for a holiday.
Yeah.
Because my friend lives out there now. But I never actually went to Australia. So I went to uni. And before that, I was working. My first ever job was in a hairdresser's. And I started that job the day before I turned 15. So I was a Saturday girl. I was quite young. In fact, I don't actually know if that's legal, but 15, quite young. Yeah. And I remember I was earning £2.67 an hour. So a long time ago.
Okay.
Yeah, that was minimum wage at the time.
That's crazy.
So I've always kind of worked, basically. I always like earned my keep and stuff like that. And then when I went to uni, that's when I started working in hospitality. My upbringing, I guess, none of my family are like kind of entrepreneurial. They all work for companies, the same companies. My mum's worked for the NHS since I was a kid. And she's worked her way up. She's the payroll manager now.
Okay.
So yeah, she's worked her way up. She's got quite a big job. But yeah, everyone kind of around me have either worked in the same companies or worked a similar lifestyle. My sister's done a bit of traveling as well. So yeah, when I went to uni, it started with hospitality. And that's kind of where I met the connections to start my Ibiza journey. And from there, obviously I did international business and economics at uni.
Which uni was that?
Leeds.
Yeah, okay. Is it a good one?
Leeds.
I've heard.
Absolutely, yeah. No, I mean, the uni experience for me was deffinitely done properly,
Yeah. What does that mean? Let's dig down a bit deeper.
Well, obviously, you go to uni, it's the first time you live alone. It's the first time you fend for yourself. I remember having to call my mum asking how I poach an egg. I've rang my dad telling him I burnt rice. He's like, so all that kind of stuff of being free, like the freedom, the independence, the maturing. And then from there, I rang my dad one day and I said, I'm going to Ibiza this summer. And he said, oh, nice. Well, who are you going with? How long are you going for? I said, no, I'm going for the whole summer. And he was like, no, you're not. Yeah. And he couldn't believe it. But that for me, I think that's how that's where my journey started. Not just marketing, because I did work on the bars and stuff first. But just my independence journey, because I was not forced, because obviously it was my decision, but I moved out of uni and I went straight to Ibiza. And from there, I never really went back to Coventry. Been back for a couple of months at a time over Christmas and stuff. But yeah, a lot of people that met me, I guess, from 19, 20 always said, you're such an old soul. You're really mature for your age. And I think that is genuinely because of my journey and
Mm.
my kind of upbringing.
But wanting to work at 15 in a hair salon, what was that drive? Because you have one sister? Two. Okay.
Yeah.
Any brothers?
No, I've got two sisters, one stepbrother, one stepsister.
Okay. So what drove you to do that? Were your parents encouraging you to go and earn your keep? Or,
yeah, I think so. I think my dad found it important that I kind of learned the value of money and work from a young age. And it was actually kind of through friends that he got me that job. So again, I was quite young. I mean, my cousin now is 18 and I think she's only just started work a year ago. So at 15, it's quite a young age to start, working. And it would just be on a Saturday, 9 to 5. And yeah, I think that definitely stemmed from my dad kind of pushing me to learn and grow.
Definitely. And uni, did you finish your degree? Or
Yes.
Okay, so
yes.
you got it.
So I did finish my degree. However, I had to graduate without my friends. And that's because, so I studied international business and economics, and I failed a module. So I had to graduate a whole year after, and then it was COVID. So I actually ended up graduating 2 years after because I failed one module.
What was the module?
Funnily enough, the module that I failed was actually marketing.
Yeah. Okay.
So I retook it and I passed it, of course. But it's just, it's crazy.
So wait, because the one module you failed, you decided to start a business directly related to that module. Why?
Honestly, no idea. I mean, a lot of people, a lot of CEOs and businessmen and businesswomen in the world, probably, I don't know, 50 to 80% of them will probably say you don't need a degree to start a business. And I think that's really interesting because a lot of people asked me if I used my degree to do what I'm doing now. And the answer is probably no. Obviously, my degree taught me a lot because it was international business and now I own a business overseas. So it did teach me a lot, and it was kind of like the stepping stones. But yeah, the one module I failed was marketing. And I think it's just because, I don't know, I just struggled with that module, I guess, struggled to get to grips with it and to look back and see that that's actually what I'm doing now. And it's my passion and it's what I love. And it's just mental to think that that's the actual module, curriculum on my curriculum that I didn't pass.
That you didn't pass. Well, it's so interesting because I remember at uni, the one subject I failed was by mistake, without realizing it, because I was studying to be a school teacher, secondary, and I did mathematics, but I chose engineering maths. So it was this whole different level, but I was just running around, not really going to classes and that. And I failed it, but numbers was always my strong point. But then you have this doubt because you have a F on your, report card or whatever. What would you say? Because I love that story because so many successful people, failed in different areas and that at university or didn't go to uni. But some people will stop there. So they'll stop at that F, they'll stop at that failure, and then they'll say, well, I can't do anything in that area because they're allowing a system to tell you what you're good at, what you aren't good at. So what would you say to someone who's watching this that maybe has failed in an area where they're actually passionate about, but to get the validation externally from the world around them, they need this, tick on their report card. What advice would you give them? Because I think a lot of people can relate to that in different areas.
Absolutely. Well, I think for me, there's a massive difference between learning something on paper and actually doing it in practice. So if you do get an F or a D on something on paper, it doesn't mean you can't do it. And for me, it's probably the motivation behind doing it, just to show the world that you can do it, And it's the same with people asking me when am I moving back to the UK, when am I settling down here, and it makes me want to stay abroad more because it's like, well, I'm not just going to do the norm. And so, yeah, you can move abroad, you can live abroad, and if you really want to pass that module that you failed, do it again, or even better, open a business in it.
Absolutely. That's like the big FU.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? It's like, because your personality type, I think it's refreshing because it's similar to me. I almost thrive more off people discouraging me than encouraging me. Does that make sense?
I agree.
Because people encouraging you like, nice. Oh, you so, yeah, okay. All I need someone to tell me is you can't do this. And then it's like, building a China shop.
Watch me.
Yeah. There's still people today, this sounds terrible, probably like some psychology here, that I think of them, saying, oh, property is a waste of time or business is a waste of time, go and do this, that I still enjoy the feeling of success being that big, stuff you.
Mm-hmm.
And, were there any people in your life that had spoken things over you, around you that you're like, hey, I'm actually going to prove you wrong?
I don't think within the uni thing, because I kept that one quite quiet, if I'm honest with you. But the living abroad thing, definitely. The amount of people that, because I've seen it with my own eyes, the amount of people that try and move abroad and it's maybe too much for them financially or emotionally, and they always end up going back home. And I'm not saying I won't ever end back in the UK, but a lot of people do assume that one day my time will be up away and abroad, and I think they'd probably expect me to one day come back.
And who would those be? Family members, friends? Like how close? Obviously you don't, if it's family, maybe don't name them for the sake of harmony, but yeah, how close are those people to you?
I think family members, they probably do think it, feel it, maybe want it, but from the goodness of their heart, they probably, if I plan to have kids one day in Spain, they probably would want their grandkids and stuff to be in the UK, which I totally get. But there would be certain people, obviously, which I wouldn't name, that probably wouldn't want me to succeed in Spain because, I don't know, maybe it's a better lifestyle, or maybe they see me in the sun all the time and they think, so there definitely is some people that I think that would probably prefer me not to succeed in that. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's always hard. And I think that, but turning that story for motivation, not to destroy you, because so often when I'm talking with people and training and coaching them, they replaying those stories and they're stopping at that. So they don't have that. It's weird. And this is where I wonder, are entrepreneurs born or, made? Is it nature, nurture? Have you always had a drive inside of you from a young age? Or do you feel it's something you've grown into later on in life?
I think that I've always definitely had something. My family, like I said, aren't like entrepreneurial, so it's not been from that or anything. But I think I would always wanted something more than just a 9 to 5, and I always wanted more, probably from about 25, than just to work for someone. And I knew that deep down, but I never really had the drive or urge to actually make that step because it's scary. So I did try a couple of businesses before the agency throughout my life.
What were they?
So the first one was a dog walking business, which I did have a couple of little fluffy clients, but it didn't turn into much. But it was just kind of to bring in extra income, keep me busy during my downtime and stuff like that, because I think that's really important as well, to have 2 streams of income. And then the second one was, it did take off quite a bit more than the dog walking business, and it was a tanning brand.
Nice.
So
we're in Ibiza, or was this back here?
Yeah, it was actually called Extreme Tan Ibiza.
Okay.
So it was based in Spain. But my biggest clientele was actually in Ireland. So my dad kept all the stock in his garage, and he would be sending it to whoever bought one through Royal Mail. I think he was going to the post office most days at one point. So yeah, of course he was helping me free of charge. He always says that I should pay him back one day with a red Ferrari.
Yeah,
but we'll see. So yeah, and that took off really well. I made quite a lot of money in that business, probably for a year and a half, when I was maybe 20, 21. And then it just kind of come crashing down. And I mean, looking back, I probably did give up too easily, but I am quite like a scared person, I guess. If someone comes after me, or if I get bad news, like you said before, I do think, oh, maybe I can't do this, and I do shut down a little bit.
Yeah,
but I wasn't going to let that happen with the agency.
Yeah, it's so interesting, because when you said a tanning business, I thought, well, why do people need a tanning business in Ibiza? It's an interesting thought that some people limit their business to their location, and it's something I want to delve into a bit later, about what it means to have location freedom in terms of running a business, because the lifestyle people want is so often, it doesn't take much to get there when you have the right mindset. But if you limit yourself to Ibiza, for example, you would say, well, okay, here are my opportunities, this is how I'm going to play. But we're in a global world. And with the online brands and that, you can really build something amazing. But take me through, so you moved to Ibiza for the summer, then what happens from that point on?
So I moved when I was 19, and I was working on a bar.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you're aware of the Lineker's bar.
I've never been to Ibiza.
Okay, you need to come.
Definitely a business trip. You know,
Absolutely.
if HMRC are watching, it will be a business trip, you know, and we'll be there. We'll be there.
Absolutely. So yeah, it all started there really. And again, that started because I didn't get the job that I wanted. I applied for a beach club, which ended up being the company that I worked for 8 years.
Mm-hmm.
So I started in the bars, met people along the way, did that for a couple of summers. So I did that for 3. And obviously now the girl I am, the woman I am now is nothing like the woman I was then, because of course I was 19.
Just
Of
partying
course I was
up
going
or-
out there to party. I was going out there for the Ibiza life, and there's no doubt about that. But I just seen something in the island that made me think, well, this could be somewhere to live. And I seen the success of other people there. And I just thought, do you know what, this could actually be my place. So I stuck at it. I went back for another season and then another season. And then after the 3rd year, I ended up actually approaching the manager of the bars that I worked for and asked if I could run their social media, because I was interested in it. So that's how the marketing came about, just from socials. His name's James, and he trusted in me and he believed in me. So he was like, yeah, go ahead. So I came off the bars and I started just doing the social media. So from there, I kind of had a little bit more freedom of not working till silly hours in the morning and doing something that I actually had passion for. And then a year later, I actually approached my old boss, Gemma. She was the brand director and events manager for O Beach, which is a really big beach club in Ibiza. And they had an office. So that the lifestyle for me then was not to work nights, but kind of wanted to work more 9 till 5 in an office. So I approached her and I said, look, I've been doing socials for a year and a half for the bars. I would really like to come to the office and kind of join the team and do more of the company's marketing. And she gave me a chance. And that's how I kind of went into my office life, I guess. That was my first office job. So I probably would have been about 22. Okay. And again, no interview needed for that. I kind of just stepped into it, which was an amazing opportunity.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And what was a Ibiza life like? You know, in the party phase, is it? Because I can imagine, you know, the people have this, what do you say, like idyllic picture of it. But actually, when you're living somewhere, to being on holiday there, or you know, just going out every night, was it what you thought it would be? Or
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that's probably the struggle, Dylan, as well with me now, because a lot of people would just assume that I'm still this Ibiza party girl. And it is quite difficult to be an entrepreneur or a director or a woman in business on the island, because people still probably think, I don't know, not take me seriously, I guess. But back then, I mean, it was everything that I wanted it to be. I needed it to be and more, to be honest. It was the partying. It was, you know, getting in late and having a great time. But I've definitely changed a lot from then to now. I mean, now you don't see me out past 9 p.m. No.
I think that's what age does to us, you know. As
I think so. I mean, there's definitely people my age still out there partying. Yeah. I mean, hats off to them, because I can't do that anymore. Yeah. But yeah, it's changed me as a person, you know. And I'll always be thankful for that.
Absolutely. And with so you working, you know, you get this opportunity. James believes in you. What was he one of the first guys, would you say, that took a risk on you, if I can say like that, or believed in you?
Yeah, I mean, I guess a risk is completely true, because although I did have a degree in kind of the field, he just took a risk and believed in me, and it started from there. But then, yeah, the second person that believed in me was Gemma, and she taught me everything I know. So starting in the agency was what kind of was the next step in my career, because it taught me all the clogs that has to tick for an agency to run, all the different departments, and you know what's kind of needed to push not just socials but every aspect of marketing. I was looking around me and I was seeing, right, there's a graphic designer, there's an ads team, there's a creative marketing manager, there's a photographer, and it's stuff that kind of taught me. And that's when I sat down and realized I want an agency one day for sure.
Come on. And what was it like having both of them believe in you at that point in your life? What did that feel like? How did that spur you on, you know?
It was at the time amazing, but again, back to the imposter syndrome. There's always a little bit of you that thinks, can I do this? And but then for me, it kind of gives me the drive to prove my worth as well. So yeah, it's a slow stepping stone as well. You know, it was really hard to work my way up in the agency, because there wasn't really any promotional opportunities. But yeah, I think just slowly prove my worth, but definitely really appreciate Gemma and James for sure.
it's quite a weird thing when someone gives you trust, in an area where you don't feel qualified.
Mm.
I found that a very powerful moment because my first investor who took a punt on me when I had no track record, nothing to show for it, just a dream, and you're painting this picture like, yeah, we can do this, we're going to buy properties, do all this stuff. I remember up to that point, like £2,000 is a lot of money. And then you have like over 100 grand landing in your account with no paperwork but a handshake.
Wow.
And I remember that feeling of, oh my goodness, this person trusts me. I cannot stuff this up. You know what I mean? It's
Exactly.
like it stirs you, it motivates you in a different way because it's not fear that you're motivated by. There's actually someone believing in you. I still think is one of the most powerful things and gifts that you can get at in the point of your entrepreneurial journey. It is so helpful, to have that because it drives you and moves you forward. But take me to now. So how long ago was that roughly when you were working with Gemma?
So that would have been probably when I was around 22, 23
Okay. Yeah,
time.
yeah.
So then I worked for the agency for 2.5, 3 years after that, until it all went bad. Well, actually, it'd probably be a bit longer. So it was a year ago on Saturday that I got made redundant.
Wow.
I know. I was thinking that on the way off. I got a bit emotional. I was thinking it's mental how much has happened in a year.
Wow.
So
can we just pause there quick?
Yeah.
What was that like? Did you see it coming? Did you?
No, not at
Not
all.
at all.
A month before, I actually got given a promotion, which would have been my first opportunity to manage a team because I haven't actually been a manager before. So from never managing a team to owning an agency but I'll take you through it. So I wasn't expecting it at all. It was actually Friday the 13th. So
oh no! So there's something in the Friday. I had a car stolen on Friday the 13th.
No, it's true. It's true what they say.
Yeah,
it's not just an old wives' tale.
So now I'll make sure my car's locked on Friday the 13th.
Oh, I mean, if you didn't lock it, then
no, it's South Africa. They just break in.
Okay. So yeah, Friday the 13th, and we had a group call, and they just said we're shutting the agency down. It's not working. I don't think it was making enough money. Maybe the setup wasn't right. I wasn't expecting it at all. 2 days after that, that's when I was leaving for my holiday to Australia.
Gosh.
So I had 48 hours essentially to make a decision because they didn't just obviously make me redundant. They did give me options. These are people that I've worked for 8 years because it's the same company. And, they, I guess, seen an opportunity and seen something in me to offer me. So they said, you can either work for the company 9 to 5 doing social media, which would have been I wouldn't have even noticed the transition. It would have been pretty much the same as what I was doing within the agency. Or, we've shut this agency down. So there's going to be 4, 5, 6 clients that still need marketing help. So, you can open your own. And I was thinking, right, going to Australia in 2 days. I've not got a job currently. I've got to make this life-changing decision. I'm supposed to be on annual leave. That can be thrown out the window. I'm not going to be enjoying it anymore. So I just remember being sat on that plane. I mean, it's 24 hours to Australia, isn't it? And I was just thinking. And probably 60, 70% of me wanted to go for the safe route, if I'm honest, and take this 9 to 5 job because it would have been a smooth transition. I wouldn't have had like a gap in my pay. I was going traveling. But no, I knew deep down what I needed to do.
But that moment, I think, it's funny. I did a day event recently with a bunch of people wanting to get into business, entrepreneurship, property, and there were about 50 people in the room, and I think 4 or 5 people had lost their jobs recently, and they have families, kids, whatever, and with AI, it's just disrupting a bunch of things. And I said, the one guy put up his hand and he said, "Hey, I've just lost my job, and I feel," and it's a hard thing to watch people go through, because the security blanket is just pulled out from under them, and where they thought they were safe, that is a very psychologically draining thing to go through. But I said, what about the gift that this redundancy is to you? Because when any story can be turned for good, no matter how bad it is, you can turn that and use it for motivation, but you have a moment of decision in which you need to make it. But I think sometimes our greatest enemy is comfort and what we perceive as safety. When someone else has got, our payroll and they're paying us on a monthly basis, and I'm sure we're talking about this now, but running a business, the reality is to what it's sold as, this, you can just do what you want with your own time. But then what they don't tell you is your brain's constantly thinking about the business or how to grow it or how to build it. So when you're on that plane and you're going and you're making this decision, can you just take me through some of the processing you did on the pros and cons, as it were, of, hey, if I do it this way, I've got this benefit, or did you just have this gut feel where I'm just going to hit it and stuff it?
Honestly, it was taking a shot in the dark.
Okay.
I made the decision way before I felt ready for it. I didn't feel ready for it at all. But it was definitely my family and my boyfriend and everyone around me that was saying, this is a major opportunity. You could run your own agency. Like, you have to do it. Like, you'd be stupid not to. And I was just thinking, well, how can I do that? Like, it's again, imposter syndrome, self-belief. I didn't actually think I didn't have what it takes to do that. And because I'd worked for this agency and I knew what went into all these clients, I was thinking, how am I going to do that alone? And also, what am I going to charge? What's the industry standards?
How hard is that to figure out?
Do you know what? It was, and I had 48 hours to make this decision, and I didn't have any kind of anything to go off of, this is what the old agency was charging, nothing. I had to take a shot in the dark. So I just thought, well, this could probably potentially be the end of my Ibiza journey, because if I say no to this job, it's going to be given to someone else. So I'm not going to get this opportunity again. But also, I'm not actually going to get an opportunity again where I'm given 4 clients to me. So it was kind of through, again, pros and cons. It was all sorts of things running through my head. And I think I was probably overtired. And I just went, you know what? I'm going to go for it. Nice, and that's how it happened. There was a couple backs and forths, but it was definitely the support of everyone that kind of pushed me to it. I couldn't see it at the time. Everyone said, this is going to be the best thing that ever happened to you. Being made redundant, I was beside myself, upset. And I couldn't see that it would have been the best thing that ever happened to me. Obviously now I do. But it's funny, isn't it? When you're in the situation, you don't see the good. You just see, oh my God, my life's over. This is so chaotic. What am I going to do next? You don't see the opportunity.
That's the hardest thing. But that's why the people, there's that saying, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And they talk about net worth, but also I think emotional net worth, I'm going big into that now, is you look at the 5 people around you, their influence into your life. It really does define a lot of who you are. That your boyfriend, for example, having a support, a partner who supports you, I think is so underrated in this day and age where everyone's like, I'm a free individual, I'm just going to do my thing. Reality is we all need people.
Absolutely.
We need people around us who just say, go for it. Like, what are you doing? Because in those moments of being in the dark place where you're kind of thinking, well, let me just take the safe route, go there. The good part, I think, is that there aren't many safe jobs anymore because of the disruption coming. But one thing that I found interesting about your story on 2 fronts is you went into starting a business with the subject you failed at university. But then secondly, you
Say it louder for the people in the back.
Yeah. But then you also did something. So you define the odds there. Then you take in the second step, which is the agency says this isn't working. Right. So you go and start an agency in the same place, pretty much saying, I don't believe you. I'm gonna make this a success, where you failed with all of, I don't know, their experience or whatever. But you've almost defied, there seems to be a defiance thing within you where you're like, stuff it, I'm going to build something out. I can make this succeed. What made you think of doing that? Have you ever thought about that you started an agency and are making it successful where others failed?
That's really interesting, because I have thought about before how much manpower it took to run that agency. There was probably a team of between 12 and 14 of us.
Wow. Okay.
And then all of a sudden it gets passed to me. Of course, there's outsourced businesses. Someone that does our ads. If we need photographers, I bring them in. But essentially, the marketing of all these clients is done by me and me only. Of course, I've got some freelancers to help me with a couple of things. But that was the main thing for me. It was more frustration because it just got passed to me. And I mean, it's amazing because they trusted me and they seen something in me, which, they said, Marisa can start our agency and take on these clients, which was great. But yeah, I mean, I've never thought it in the way that you've just said, not at all. So yeah, defied 2 odds, I guess.
Yeah, no, I'd say it's if that's the theme of your life, that's a super exciting trajectory that you're on,
Mm.
because, lots of people just stop, give up, and change or pivot, whereas you are recreating, looking at efficiencies, whatever your competitive advantage is. And that spirit behind that is the difference that makes a difference. Genuinely, when you watch business owners that succeed, I think I read something the other day, 80% or 90% of all businesses fail within the first 10 years.
Ooh,
So that is
wow.
a crazy stat. And what I always say, like in our business, in the marketing front, whatever it is, I say, what is that difference that makes a difference in us? It's the spirit, it's the people. Even when we met at a marketing event, it's there's collaboration. You can see something in people's eyes where, hey, I'm going to make this a success. Whether it's the last thing that I do, and that that fighting spirit within you, which I think is an amazing thing, just to encourage you to keep going. But okay, so Redundancy, you launched an agency. Can you take me through the startup process?
Yes, absolutely.
Because like registering a business, choosing a name, like all the things people don't want to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm hoping there are a lot of young people wanting to start businesses, old people wanting to start businesses. Can you give them some advice that you wished you knew as well?
Absolutely. So obviously when I got offered the two options, it was by the owners of the beach club that I mentioned earlier, the larger group that I worked for. So it was Tony and Dwayne. They're the guys that kind of offered me it and seen the potential in me, which I'll forever be grateful for. And so Tony is a great guy, and he's great in business. He's built businesses since he was very young. And I actually said to him, if I'm going to go for this, if I'm actually going to do this, I'm going to need you to be my business mentor. And he said, of course, absolutely, I'll do that. So I had him along the way. So he was introducing me to all the contacts in Spain that I needed to set up a business, tax, all that, register myself, all that kind of stuff, which was great. And he was giving me advice and bits and bobs like that. But then on the other side of things, I have my boyfriend, Dean. So he has also been in business for quite a lot of years of his life. So any question that I had along the way, startup process was probably the worst looking back. He would help me through it. He would help me kind of put the pricing plans together. He was also like a business mentor to me as well, really. And he was kind of my human ChatGPT at the time. Yeah.
Everyone needs one.
Yeah. He's been amazing, and he still is up to this point. Any problem I've got, he'll come back from work and we'll sit down and we'll reply to that email together, or we'll do that contract together. Do you know what I mean? So that's really good. So yeah, I mean, the process of setting up, it was while I was away. So I was in Australia for 3 weeks, and then from there I went to the Philippines and Vietnam. So my sister actually joined me in the Philippines, and I actually apologized to her not long ago because I think I must have been a crazy woman.
Really?
And yeah,
Gosh,
I was just beside myself because when I was setting up, obviously I was sending out these proposals to these clients I had. Again, didn't know what to include or not include. I didn't know what price to put on them all. So again, shot in the dark, sent them all out, got them all ready, made them look presentable. And it actually said at the time, agency name and branding coming soon.
We're not the only ones. This is so good.
No, because I actually had to send these pricing plans to get them all signed, to make sure that I had some kind of income sometime soon, and to get the ball rolling before I even had chance to sit down and think, what's the name going to be?
Yeah.
And so that was.
And did people sign those?
Yeah.
Wow, you see the power of relationship there.
I know, yeah, because I had my name on it. I mean, it just said creative marketing agency branding coming soon. I know. Looking back, I mean, I need to dig them out at some point. It's funny. So yeah, that was one of the biggest things. And the name, it was when I was in Australia, and there was so much running through my head, and I honestly, I just didn't know. I mean, I'd just been told I lost my job the week before, so I was like, what am I doing? And I think the name stemmed from the fact that I wanted it to be an acronym. And obviously SALT stands for social and leading talent. Nice. So that's why I came up with SALT. Obviously there was problems with it later on down the line. And then the Philippines thing with my sister, that was because after I sent all these pricing plans out and got them signed, there was just a couple of backs and forths with things. And there was maybe, one of the clients at one point had someone else. So yeah, I just kind of lost it, and I was so anxious, so on edge. And I mean, I didn't not enjoy my time in the Philippines. It was still amazing. But definitely it was just really, just anxiety ridden, the whole thing, because it was so rushed and I felt so pressured to get everything done by a certain date. I just felt like it wasn't really like an enjoyable, slow experience for me. It was just right, that's it.
Go for it. Sorry, what was that time frame exactly? Like,
So,
are you talking a week, 2 weeks?
No, well, I lost my job on the 13th.
Yeah.
I flew to Australia on the 15th, and then I give my decision on the 17th.
Wow.
So that was 4 days, and then from that was December, and then I launched Salt Agency on social media in April 1st.
Okay.
April Fool's Day.
Yeah.
But I actually started operating in end of Jan. So I literally had like a 5-6 week turnaround from when I lost my job to when I started operating. Yeah.
That's crazy. But take me to that anxiety moment. You know, what was going through your head? What did that feel like? Because I think a lot of people will relate to that.
I think for me, it was kind of the sense of, oh, just give me a break. Like,
who? Who are you talking to in this moment? Yourself, God, universe?
Yeah, the universe, God, because I was like, I've just lost my job. I'm traveling. I'm really, I'm giving this everything I've got to try and set this up. And there was things that came my way with, potential other people for clients. And like I told you earlier about the whole name thing. And I felt like the process, that was probably just giving me the most anxiety, because I just felt like I just needed someone to give me a break. I was really trying with everything I had. But I guess that's kind of what shaped me to who I am. That was the backbones and the solid ground for the resilience that I've got today, for sure.
Absolutely. But what got you through that? What? Because so many people I know have that same story, that moment of, whatever they believe in, they'll start blaming and saying, I just need a break. Nothing's going right for me. All those things we say in those moments. What keeps you going in that time? Because so many don't.
Probably the support network, I guess, around me. Like I said from the start, and I'll say to the end, if I didn't have my boyfriend, my parents, my sisters around me telling me not to shut up, but, get on with it. Get on with it. You can do this. Look at what you've got so far. You just a little more to go. If I didn't have all these people around me, then I probably would have just been like, do you know what? I'll take that 9 to 5.
That's so good. That's so good. Yeah, but you see, that's the thing is success is shared, with the emotional support. And this is why I'm so big on these 4 freedoms that, we look at financial, time, location, and emotional. If you have all of those other 3 except, and you don't have emotional freedom, you will never get anywhere, but you need people around you, because family relationships are so important. Your relationship with your boyfriend, that is such a pivotal relationship that if that's in a mess, and you're trying to run a business with all the stress that it brings, it just the weight can just be crushing, for people. And so I always encourage people, like sometimes they want to start a business or get going, and I look at their family life or, their support network. I'm like, this is going to be a hard, not that you can't do it. It's just you want to build relationships, even get friends around you that are very supportive. But also they're not blind. They'll tell you what you need to hear, not just what you want to hear. Because like you say, sometimes you need that tough love, which is, hang on a sec, you can do this. We believe in you. You have everything going for you. Let's make it happen. But the anxiety, I think, is such a topic that's not talked about enough, in the journey. Because did you find at that startup phase, it reared its head more so, or through the year of running your business, has it popped up again and again, or how do you deal with it?
Oh no, I get it every day.
Every day.
Still got it now.
Cool. Did you have anxiety coming here today?
Yeah, I think for something new, of course, you get the nerves, you get the anxiety. But I mean, in terms of the business and the agency and the journey, I get it all the time, Okay. And now I'm getting to a point where it's like almost been a year, so I'm going to be doing the contracts again for next year, and then I'm thinking,
will they sign up again?
Yeah, will they go again? Like, were they happy? I mean, I think they were happy, and they've said they're really happy with the results and stuff. But you get it, and it's just normal. You get it. I think it's going to be a thing forever. Really, you're never going to stop. If you're the one that's in charge of your income and your life and your journey, and you're not doing it for someone else, you're not working for someone else, then of course you're going to get anxiety along with that. But that's the path that people choose to take, and hopefully, they say the bigger the risk, the bigger the reward. Hopefully, at the end of the tunnel, is building something that you're proud of, and and just the feeling of knowing that you did that and you get through and you make it to the other end. Hopefully all the anxiety and stress will be worth it.
Absolutely, absolutely. What's your biggest fear?
Wow. Biggest fear probably is failure, which might sound really cliche. I think from the 2 businesses that I guess failed, like I said, all that planning stuff is now sat in my dad's garage. I think it's obviously you want to make your parents proud and you want to make everyone around you proud. But I think for me, having the 2 businesses that didn't really take off, it's failure. So I knew myself, right, if I'm doing this, I'm not letting it fail. And it has consumed me for the whole year. So when you say about the emotional freedom, I'm not the best at that. Some days, I think I was probably working on average 95-hour weeks in the summer. Obviously first year of business, but there's just no bone in my body that will let this fail.
No.
Because that's what I'm scared of the most.
Yeah, yeah. Which again, this is why I asked the question is when we look at our insecurities, as well, that can drive us. Either insecurities drown you or drive you. They're either going to drown out the dream, you're not going to go anywhere, people get paralyzed in them, or others allow it to drive them forward and say, actually, I'm going to work. Because when you're doing 90-hour weeks, which, anyone in business that I know that's on a startup level, I mean, I say this to my business partner often. I say, people around them will give them advice, that say, oh, why are you working so hard and all of that? But look at their lives. They're not doing what you're doing. Again, if you get around the wrong people, but when you get around entrepreneurs, they are say, hey, 90-hour weeks, yeah, it is what it is.
Normal.
It's normal. You got to do what you got to do because no one else is going to do it. But that fear of failure, I realized recently in a new venture, even with podcasting, whatever it is, it can rear its head again. And you think you've conquered it. It's almost like whack-a-mole. If you've ever played that, it's like hit the thing. And it keeps popping up its head. But I've just learned it's interesting how quickly you get used to living with a level of risk. And then you grow and you go to that next step, that next step, that next step. But would you say that you are happy right now in the place where you're at? In terms of a year in, you've taken a big life change. How are you finding it now?
Yeah, a big question, because I think at one point in the summer when I was doing those mental weeks and I really struggle with delegation.
Are you a perfectionist?
Yeah, definitely a perfectionist. And sometimes I think, well, what's the point in asking that person to do that when I can just do it myself? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And obviously the protection of my new agency, that's my baby. So there was one point in the summer where I actually looked at my boyfriend and I was like, why do people do this? Like, obviously money's not the only thing that drives you. Of course you do it out of passion and it's something you love. But I was thinking, why do people do this? Because like, it's so stressful. And I was actually getting upset because I was like, this isn't enjoyable. Like, I'm not happy because I was so stressed. But looking back, like, everyone's going to have those moments in business, especially when you've got your own, you're running it yourself, you want to protect it and you want to grow it. But ultimately, after the year I've had, I can't complain. So no, I'm definitely happy. Definitely made the right choice. And I know that all the stress and everything that comes along with it is definitely going to be worth it one day.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And what would you say you're most proud of from this last year in terms of having launched and that? Has there been a moment where you've thought, wow, this has been amazing?
I think when I did my end of season reports to my clients, that was a really proud moment for me because I, like I said, never had interviews or something, anything like that before. So for me to walk into these rooms, which are, male dominated, men in business, all these people that have always been the directors and my bosses and stuff before, walking into those rooms to lead these meetings, to show them what I've done in the past year, that was my proudest moment so far for sure. Because it was like, start of the year, I would never be able to do anything like this. I would never be able to talk to the camera. If I rang someone, I'd be nervous to be thinking, what am I going to say?
Really?
So to walk into the rooms and actually lead the meeting, I was, looking back thinking, when did I change? And who is this person? I think the self-growth was the most proud.
How have you, because you take me as a kind of person that's just kind of give it a go, you learn on the go. Have you done much studying, YouTube watching? Where have you, or has it literally been just people, being around the right people, getting the business mentor? How have you learned all of this stuff?
So no, not at all. Like I said, I've never managed a team before. So
Mm.
going from just working, I always had managers above me. I never worked my way up, I guess, to that point in the agency. So going from that to now being a founding director, so I do have people that work for me. I've really struggled with that because I've never had the experience of delegating, of managing, of teaching, of
Mm.
training, of, uplifting when someone needs it. I've never had the experience of that.
Mm.
So that was just a whirlwind. I've really felt like I'm, flying the plane whilst I'm building it, kind of thing.
Mm. Because also, I think that what's impressive about that is it takes away the excuses for others, because some people think they need to have everything perfect before they start. Now, you as a perfectionist, I think it must have killed you, because I know other perfectionists, and the thing is, perfection is too costly in business because you need to get things done. So sending out a contract without the, coming soon name, I love that because it just breaks the, all the excuses we have, like we're only going to start when we have it all prim and proper and everything worked out. That you realize very quickly it's never going to all be worked out.
Just go for it and
just go for
deal
it.
with the pieces, pick up the pieces later on.
Absolutely, absolutely. And but out of all the aspects of business, because I think as an agency owner or business owner, what you don't realize is how many different skills you have to have or grow into. So, for example, sales, like picking up the phone, speaking to people. You might not like that, but you might be stronger on especially in our industry, creative industry. People just want to they think it's all about the content or whatever. We know how complex it actually is. What has been the skill you've been weakest at when starting, and then how have you grown in that?
I think for me, the biggest point of all this, I've not had any investment, I've not got any loans, I've not had any help from family. So I've learned everything. I've had to wear all the hats. That's the only choice I had, because I didn't want to, I've bootstrapped the whole thing from start to now. And one of the things that people were urging me to get was an accountant.
Okay.
But I didn't want one.
Good.
So I've done all my books myself. So I think that's definitely been the most challenging, because not only am I doing my books, but I've also got to learn like a Spanish tax system as well. So knowing what to do and when to pay it and when to do this, that was probably the hardest thing to learn, for sure.
How complicated is the Spanish system? Is it?
I mean, it's probably similar to a UK system, really. I mean, you pay your tax quarterly and you have to set aside to pay the tax and stuff like that. But I use an online system to do it all, but just to keep everything I've spent, from petrol to rent to all the systems I'm paying for online, and to keep all the receipts and do it monthly. I've got into a flow of doing it now, but for sure that was probably the hardest part, because everyone said get an accountant, and I thought, no, I'm just going to do it myself.
Yeah, the defiance again. So you've defied the odds in 3 areas. No, I think it's amazing. And one of the things that I really wanted to ask you about is because you live quite a different life to anyone that I've met. Now, we currently working on, like I said, location freedom. So we've got property here, we've got businesses here. But as we can see, tax systems are changing. You need to have exposure, multiple streams of income in different countries. You currently live, if I get this right, about 6-7 months in Ibiza, and then whatever the rest here. How do you find that, and what is it possible for the ordinary person to live a life? But you do it a bit weirdly, if I'm honest. I need to ask why. Is you come here in the winter, whereas my plan is to run away in the winter. So why do you do that? And is it impossible from a practical point of view? How do you make that possible?
Okay, so 5 years ago was when I got my residency in Spain. So that's when I decided to reside in Spain and pay tax in Spain. So I haven't paid tax here in 5 years. So when I decided to live out there all year round, so I've got my place all year round and I can go back whenever I want. But I decided to, the winters there are similar to the winters here.
Oh, really?
Well, they're not, obviously it's a lot hotter and there's a lot more things to do and stuff. It's, very cold here, but it's very quiet. It's nothing like the summer. I mean, a lot of people, when I said to them, I'm spending the winter in Ibiza, they think, oh, really? Like, is that a thing? And I'm like, well, yeah, the island doesn't sink. It's still there. Yeah. So it was quite a weird thing to get, everyone to get their head around. But it started with traveling in the winter. Obviously, last winter I did Australia, Philippines, Vietnam. The winter before I did Thailand and Bali. So it was kind of that space and time for me to be able to go see the world. And then, of course, obviously I met my boyfriend. So I've been doing long distance. So in the summer months from March till end of October, I'm obviously in Ibiza because that's where my clients are. I need to be there, front facing. And then now in the winter, I've moved to London with him. So that's the only thing that made sense. I wouldn't stay there like on the island by myself when he's here.
Yeah.
So it's I guess it's a weird way, and it is very, very cold and not that enjoyable. I've always been a sun baby, but it's just, it makes sense for me. And I guess what you said about the financial freedom as well of having different sources of income. Obviously at the moment I'm paying tax and residing in Spain, but I am thinking of maybe setting up in Dubai as like further down the line.
Aren't we all?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's something that me and Dean have spoke about a few times. It's the benefits of it, and you only have to go out twice a year, and obviously the tax payments are much less. But the only thing with that is obviously Brexit. My residency is so sacred at the moment. For a Brit to live in Spain is unheard of nowadays. So for me to do that, I would risk the chance of being able to live in Spain long term.
Yeah. What, do you have to live like 6 months or more in Spain to keep your residency?
So I've actually just refreshed it. So I've got a 10-year residency now. So I wouldn't have to worry, I guess, for another 10 years. But if I'm not paying tax in Spain, then of course you're not really supposed to be living there. So it's all difficult, and it's all things that you don't think about.
No. The cool part though is with especially the businesses, like marketing, anything online, is you can do it quite easily, because we're looking at Dubai as well and Portugal actually, and just having multiple places, and because you don't want to be tied to one place as well. I think that's where it's very restrictive, and we're in such a globalized world, and there's so many cool things you can learn from being around different people, different cultures. Dubai seems to have a really hot tech scene as well, which is really cool to see what's going on there. Also the creative industry, so many content creators. So it'll be a good move, but we're looking into it at the moment as well. So
amazing.
Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, I think the market's definitely a bit more saturated out there. There's a lot of marketing agencies and creative people out there, which is scary. But I think
but they haven't met us yet, have
No.
they? We can go in. But that's the beauty of it, is sometimes people are scared of collaborating in this space, but you need to, and with like-minded people. Again, you want to do business with good people, be able to recommend, build together, and there's no telling what you could accomplish, So what is the dream? Where are you going with your life? Fast forward 10 years from now, what do you want to see happen? What are you hoping for? If you don't mind sharing.
Absolutely. So I think that's a great question, because a lot of people who see me online and naturally would probably think that my agency only runs in Spain. And at the moment it is. I did just sign a client last week that operates in Dubai, but it's mostly Ibiza and Spanish clients. So for me to kind of get out of that, because it's been all I know for 8 years, it's going to be quite difficult. But my goal is obviously much bigger than that. It's to be, to have offices around the world, to have clients around the world, to be a global agency. If I've got it in me, if I can accomplish that.
When.
But that's the long-term goal, I guess. I don't just want to stop now, and I don't just want to be based in Ibiza. It's a great place to be based in, and the clients are seasonal as well. Don't forget. So they close in the winters. So I can't. It's not long term. It's not the best. I need to think of other options. So definitely global. Maybe Dubai next step. Australia looks good.
Come on.
We'll see.
Hey, this
Sky's
is
the limit.
Absolutely. Why not? The exciting part though is when you work things out, things are always cheaper than people realize to live the lifestyle that people want. So when I've broken down like flying, your own aeroplane into Europe and that, and you break it down into what it actually costs, it's actually really reasonable. And when you work it out, okay, you need X amount of clients, you need X amount of properties, whatever, and then you can live that lifestyle. I wonder, in terms of marketing, just to drill down a bit there, where do you see the marketing industry going? Everyone's talking about AI coming and taking over. Content creators content creators might be needed, but we'll have, AI bots or whatever it is. What's your prediction, and how are you adapting as a business to meet the changes that are coming in our industry?
Yeah, a great question again. I think the AI thing is the next anxiety. I guess we're talking about, when this anxiety will stop. I don't think it will. This is the next thing.
Mm-hmm.
And, I've got clients sending me things about AI tools and then AI, like you said, AI taking over. The only thing that I tell myself from all of it and, tries to keep me sane is no one is me. And that's my power. Because nobody, of course, you can get AI to schedule your posts, to manage your website, to, create your content for you. But nobody knows the brand like me or like any agency owner. No one's going to know those brands. A computer's not going to know. ChatGPT can learn tone of voice for each brand. Yeah, great. I use it all the time. But no one's actually going to know the depth of what it takes. So I am integrating it a bit. I'm using AI tools to help me with marketing, but I don't think it will ever replace, hopefully, what the connections and the knowledge that we have, with our clients. What do you think?
Sure. It's pretty much been the focus of all my study, everything that I do for the last 2 months. And I've gone between, we're all going to die, it's like nuclear war. So like this AI is going to release a bomb and I just say we all dead because we're creating something beyond our intelligence, which just freaks me out a bit. But then the optimist inside of me believes there's going to be an abundance, but the personal branding will be needed more than ever. Because I still think as humans, we are created, I believe, in the image of God as relational beings. There's something that you just can't take away from this, from in-person connection, relating to humans. We know there's like CGI. There's been so many things around in terms of movies and what's fake and what's real. There's still something. Why do we follow celebrities? Why do we follow influencers? Because there's something we connect to on their lives. I think that we're going to go back to smaller communities, and we're going to go back to authentic relationships on a whole different level, almost to the point where we're just going to be like, what is real anymore? I think that's going to be the hardest thing to answer. So even when you look at some of the ads coming out from marketing companies, it's hard to distinguish some of it. And I think that's going to be really hard to watch the creators in terms of editing, and that will become easier. So there's a lot of advantages there. So we can get out more, but then to have that competitive advantage, like you say, I think who you are is unique. The thumbprint you have is unique. So if people aren't building that, I think they're in big trouble.
Yeah.
And partly with storytelling, connecting on a human level, that's really what I'm betting on, is that human connection will be the next big thing, as it always has been.
And that's the thing that comes most natural to us.
Absolutely. And so I think marketing will adapt to a lot of our work. I think will be in-person events, people coming together, bringing people together. The bigger companies without personal stories, I think, are in big trouble, because people want that. They're going to want it more and more. But in terms of the marketing industry, I think we're going to see mass redundancies across the sector. I'm talking about more big corporates now, where they're going to outsource to people like us, who are specialized. We know what we're doing, and we can add a lot of value. And so I think our golden hour might be coming very soon. But that's my optimist side.
I like your thinking. Absolutely.
So
like
nuclear war, or that I don't
know. One
which
extreme
one.
to the other.
Yeah.
Equilibrium, please.
I'm hoping that doesn't happen. That's why I've got my South African passport, just in case.
Yeah.
Because I thought if nuclear war breaks out, I'll just be at the bottom, of the world, and hopefully it doesn't reach us. But who knows? But with regards to being a female founder, you said earlier, going into a boardroom, all these men, male dominated. How have you found that?
It's been quite challenging, I guess, because especially on the island in Ibiza, there's women in business over there, and they're really inspirational. I look up to them. Gemma being one, my old boss. She's amazing. But the majority of the business owners, especially in the company that I work for, are men. So it is difficult, and there's always a sense of, will I get taken seriously? And do they think I'm good enough and stuff like that? So it's really scary to walk into to a room filled with people that used to be your bosses,
Mm.
and now instead of working for them, you're now a partner in their, I guess, growing business. You know, I'm an outsourcer, their marketing agency, and for one of them, I'm actually their brand director. So yeah, it's been really difficult to kind of do that. And I mean, at first I was nervous, had the sweats, but I think just after realizing that, you know, seeing the results on paper and seeing what I can do, I guess, give me a bit of an authority to be in that room as well. Do you know
Absolutely.
what I mean?
Yeah. Would you say that a lot of that was self-imposed, or would you say there was a vibe that they gave off, maybe unintentionally? But I think with younger women coming into business, this can be something that a lot of people encounter all the time. So, firstly, was it something that they were doing or saying that wasn't helpful? Because that would be good, I think, for men to hear as well, if there was, because in a way to bring that out. Because I'm actually surrounded by ladies, in different businesses, and
Lucky boy.
I know. I mean, and it's so funny because I've always just been like, okay, what's the best talent for the job? It doesn't matter who you are, skin color, sex, I don't care. But the ladies are just killing it. All the the guys, I don't know what they're doing. Half the time they're just chilling, or they have the next big idea. But like Katie works in the marketing side, is just smashing it in business, and it's just amazing to see. But then to younger women that maybe want to get into business, but they don't know, going into these rooms, they feel intimidated, get the sweats, whatever it is. What advice would you have to them?
I think, honestly, it probably just comes with practice. And I know that's probably the worst thing to hear, because I don't think there's any way that you can be prepared for anything like that. I think you just need to do it a few times, practice it, have self-confidence for sure, know what you're walking into, and own it, really. And even if there is a sense of pretending, and I guess just like we said earlier, just going for it and picking up pieces after, even if there is a sense of that.
Fake it till you make it.
Absolutely. Exactly what I was getting to. Yeah. I think that's probably the best advice, because you can't just walk into a room and, unless you're a really highly confident person, and own it. You have to get to know the people in that room, and you have to get to know the topic you're talking about. And once you crack all those codes, I think it still doesn't come easily and naturally to me. Like, I still do get nervous and stuff, but I've definitely grown in the past year, but it's all through practice for sure.
And that's so surprising about you, though. So for people that have been watching this, they will be probably surprised to hear that as well, because I've only met you once at an event. It was quite a noisy event and all of that. And you come across very confident in who you are, what you're doing. And I know you had your friend with you when I met you before. And I think that's quite encouraging for some people that maybe are shy, or you may be less confident to take that step, that it's a skill that we learn, because people don't believe I'm an introvert. So I really enjoy my own space, own time. I was super shy as a kid. And so to encourage people with that, I think is so important, because whether they are men and women, both struggle with it in different ways. Men tend to be sometimes overconfident, or to the point of maybe a bit arrogant at times. But I've always said, even working with some of the entrepreneurs I work with, is saying, own it. When you walk into a room, expect people to like you. Because so often we walk in thinking, why would they want to talk to me? Why would they? And there's something about confidence that is attractive, brings, the business, to you, really. But I just, really well done, because it's not easy what you've done and what you've built in the space of a year, from a negative situation, or potentially, depending on how you look at it, it could be the most positive moment of your life. When you look back on it, if you hadn't got made redundant, would you have taken this, step? But one of the things I kind of going back a bit, I know we've jumped around a bit here, is in your relationship with Dean. So you've been together just over a year, is that right? So shout out to Dean. I'm sure he'll watch this.
Absolutely.
But I heard Dean got baptized as well. So
Yes,
big congrats to you, Dean. Yeah. But with having a long distance relationship, would you mind just sharing what that's like? Because, when we're looking at this pod, we're dealing with people's whole lives. So relationships, emotions, business, finances, everything. How have you found that as a couple going through that? And how have you made it work?
Yeah. So I guess, well, firstly, I need to say as well, obviously it's been a year almost I lost my job, and it's also been just a year since we've been together, just over. So the person that I've, I guess, grown into and changed to become, he's been there by my side, every step of the way. So, I got a new boyfriend and a new business in the same year.
Hey, what a great combo.
It was quite crazy, so I've kind of grown with him in that sense. And then the long distance side of things, obviously it's hard, as any long distance would be. We did manage to see each other at least once a month. He'd fly to me, I'd fly to him. So in seeing each other, at least once a month was fine. And we stayed on top of that. But honestly, I said to him at the start, this was probably the perfect thing to happen, because I'm literally building a business, and so is he, from scratch. And I've been thrown into this new thing, and it's almost like, not that I wouldn't have time, but it's like I wouldn't know if I would find the time to give to you that you deserve while I'm trying to do this. And same for him, we're both building our business separately in 2 different countries, and it's almost perfect that we are long distance during those summer months, because we're living together now, and he'll finish work and I'll cook him dinner, we'll put a movie on, and we will switch off a bit. Whereas when we're long distance, we'll FaceTime every night, and I'll literally have him on my desk and then have me on his desk on FaceTime, and we'll just help each other work until 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night. And I think we probably are more productive in business when we're apart, if that makes sense.
No, 100%. Yeah.
Of course, we still are productive together in real person, but I think it was difficult to jump into a long distance relationship, because I guess when you decide to be with someone, you would never expect to be living 300 miles apart.
No.
But it all happened in perfect timing. God's plan. I genuinely believe that.
Yeah. No, definitely. I believe that wholeheartedly. When something's meant to be, it happens. And this, for the romantics out there, how did you meet? Because it sounds, you just told me briefly before, but it sounds a bit crazy. Do you mind just sharing?
Yeah, absolutely. Part? So he used to also live and work in Spain. So he lived in Marbella for a bit and Ibiza for a bit. So all of the people that I knew and worked with, he knew and worked with. So it was actually Gemma, same person as my old boss.
Key person in your story.
Absolutely. She was the mutual connection between us, her and many others, but mainly her. So he messaged me on Instagram, last April. And then I'm talking about last year now, and then last July, we ended up actually bumping into each other at Esvedra in Ibiza, which is a really spiritual place. It's said to be the 3rd most magnetic point in the world. And we just bumped into each other one day. So that's how it all kind of started with us.
That's amazing. But well done to you guys, because that takes a lot. I think it's interesting in relationships, because some people, like me and my wife, we just have such different roles in what we're doing now, where she's, grew up in more of a corporate kind of structure, very good at what she did, and, that, but she was just like, you build the businesses, take the risk. I don't want to know how much debt we've got, all those kinds of things. And so we've kind of got our lanes. And then you have other couples like yourselves who are building and hustling together in kind of different realms, which I think is helpful, because when you're building the same thing together, that must be hard, because then you're both stressed about the same things at the same time. But to do that long distance, pretty much from day one, that's hard. And I think you've done really well to be pushing that amount of work, where people would say it's impossible to have a relationship whilst building a business. It breaks that whole story.
Yeah.
And this is a whole key thing with your story. I think it's so relatable to so many people. And hopefully, I'm hoping that people are going to hit us up and say, hey, well done. Like, you've done this, but also you've inspired me to take my step. I was made redundant this week, and now I can go and take this step and go on my journey. The amazing part about your story is it's inspiring and it's relatable. Now, just as we come to a close, your 18-year-old self, taking yourself all the way back there, what advice would you give to that person that you were then?
Difficult question. I think one of the main things is obviously having a couple of businesses that didn't work out. Failure isn't fatal.
Wow.
That would be one.
That's a beautiful quote.
Yeah. So it's a lesson. It's what gives you the drive to go again, try something new, and don't stop until you get there. Another one would be saying no is really powerful. So like I did when I turned down that job, there's always going to be another side. So as soon as you open a door, close a door, there's going to be one that opens straight afterwards, even if you don't see it at the time.
Mm.
And also the last one would be outgrowing jobs, people and environments is a good thing.
That's a beautiful thing, actually. Outgrowing people, jobs, and environments.
Mm-hmm.
Can you unpack that a little bit?
Yes. So environments being your hometown isn't just the only place that you can live and reside.
Coventry,
there is a Coventry. There's other places out there. There's new worlds out there. There's all sorts of different destinations that you can live in. People. I think that throughout your life you're always going to be meeting different people that either support you or don't. The people that pretend to support you but don't actually support you, and it takes some kind of courage and also good brain power to know the difference between the two. So it's fine to outgrow people if some people aren't kind of on your level, if they're not. And I'm not saying that in any way that's like I'm now owner of business and you're not. Nothing like that. It's just on a emotional, mature and spiritual level like you are. It's okay to outgrow them.
Yeah, but that's very hard for the. And I found this so interesting because I relate to people in all the different classes of society. So you get, poor, middle, upper, but, everything in between. And the beauty of having been involved in a church and that kind of thing is I get to relate to all different people. But what I've noticed the difference between the poor and the rich is a lot of it's in their mindset, but also who they relate to, and it's so interesting because a lot of rich people can end up isolated as well because they don't trust people because people just want something from them. So I'm very intentional about, okay, how do you have genuine relationship where you're not expecting to get something from someone? You can just have dinner with them or, just be a good person. But when I listen to some people that are in the poorer classes, the way they talk about money, the way they talk about business, it's always about them. Like, the rich, when they do this, but when you talk about people that are hustling like us, we talk about when we do this, how do we get there? How do we find that information out so that we can break out of that? But I love that advice because I think we all need to hear that, constantly, because some friendships are actually keeping you stuck. And like you said, it's not because you're saying you're better than them. It's just actually this isn't beneficial to, if you get around a really anxious person that's like jittery, I start feeling a bit nervous. We imitate each other's body language, throughout. You can see when people are in sync with one another, they connect. There's a different way of relating. So I do encourage people to actually look around them and say, either you're cutting off or you are actually building new relationships. I always like the building phase because naturally you're just forming some. Because when you're doing 90-hour weeks and that, you don't have a lot of time for, rubbish or drama
Absolutely.
or anything like that. You're just wanting to go for it, and you want people you can go have a drink with and actually just talk about similar things and relate to on your level. So I think that's really cool.
Yeah, and I've definitely stemmed away from, I guess, the drama and gossip side of the island in the past year.
Is that quite big there?
Oh yeah. It's definitely big out there, and I guess it is in any kind of friendship group. But I've definitely seen myself kind of not getting involved in stuff like that because I just don't have the mental capacity for that stuff anymore. You know.
When I think of Ibiza, I have to make a confession, right?
Oh, damn.
No. The only reference point I have of Ibiza is: have you ever watched White Lines on
Yes.
Netflix?
Yeah.
I love that show. It was that series. It was just so funny. I found it hilarious, but that's what I picture Ibiza being like. Is just these guys, running around with their cocaine, like trying to hide it, and the dogs like sniff it. That is, this is the totally immature. And then you forget, people actually live here and make businesses, make lives out of the places where they're at.
Yep.
But it's just so funny how, Hollywood can mess it up.
It's so difficult to get out of that mindset from people because even me and Chloe were saying at the meetup, obviously we started to make our way around the room meeting people, and then all of a sudden we were known as the Ibiza girls.
Oh, really?
And people were actually coming up, oh my God, you're Marisa that has Salt Agency in Ibiza, the Ibiza people. And which is, it's fine, but it's it is really difficult for us to get out of that, because we don't want to be known as that, really, because of course, what do you relate Ibiza with? What you've just said, you know, and it's so not like me, and it's so not like Chloe. And, you know, we're on to bigger, better things, and it is a livable place as well. You know, it's very like, you know, community vibes, very spiritual. There's a lot going on there. So maybe you should come and check it out.
Well, what I'm thinking is what we'll do some vlogging, and we can do a pod in Ibiza as well.
Okay.
And we can tell the true story of Ibiza. So people can hear what the reality is, you know, and hear from people that are working and hustling there. I think that would be pretty cool, because again, perceptions and stereotypes are built off ignorance.
Yes.
You know, so if you are ignorant, and this way I love travel, because when you travel, you get to understand, you know, like I was saying to someone the other day about Dubai, and they say, you know, but they use the word like they don't agree with like Western democracy and all of that. I said, yeah, but you go in there and you're going to respect the culture you're in, and there's no crime there. So, you know, something's working that's not working here. Yeah. So instead of going with arrogance, why not go with a student mindset? But I think that would be quite a fun thing to do, is to show people the realities of the other side of an island like Ibiza.
I know some studios. Just let me know when.
Come on. This will be good.
Get the podcast studio booked.
Absolutely. But Marisa, I want to thank you so much. It's been so good having you on.
Thank you so much for inviting me, honestly. First one, and it was on my list for this year to do as well. So
really, we did it.
Very thankful.
Did it.
Thank
and
you so
you
much.
know what will be exciting is in a year's time, have you on again and see what's happened. You know, because
no, I'm joking.
Yeah. No, but it'll be amazing to, you know, I'm a big supporter of your story, and any way we can help, you know, I'm more than happy to. But yeah, I really appreciate it. Anything else you want to leave the audience with?
No, I think we've covered everything.
Cool. You've done really well.
Thank you.
And yeah, I really appreciate it, and thank you again.
Thank you so much for having me.